Okay, I'm going to get started. If people join in after the fact, that's totally okay. If you have to go, that's totally okay. I'm going to record this and send it out later as well. A little bit about myself. My name is Courtney Verdell. I am owner of a company called Center Stage Kids and Little Monkey Entertainment. I am a triple threat performer who has been performing and teaching for over 20 years now. I love theater. I love musical theater. When I was performing a lot, my specialty was children's theater. I did kids' birthday parties. I traveled around and did a lot of children's theater shows, only because I think kids are the most honest audience you're ever going to have. I used to joke that, like, in theater, anything can happen, but in kids' theater, anything can happen. Over the last 20 years teaching theater and musical theater, I found that a lot of my families were homeschool families. And I also saw all the benefits of theater and musical theater and thought, how can I get this out to more people? How can I make it more accessible for everybody? How can I, give these skills that I know kids really could use and just make it more accessible for everyone. If you can't, drive to a rehearsal studio, if you can't find a class close to you. So I've created some self-paced programs. I have some online drama clubs. I just have tons of resources that I love to share with homeschool families because, like I said, I know those benefits of theater, but I also know how intimidating it can be to teach it if it's not something that that comes natural to you. So yes, that's what today's all going to be all about. Just a little bit of the plan. I am going to share some quick benefits of theater. Honestly, it's a subject I could probably talk about all day, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. I want to give you some simple tools and guidelines of how you could set up your space, set up your expectations with your kiddos on what it looks like when you are teaching theater, because it's different than some of the other subjects. And then I want to share with you what I call my actors warm up and kind of the importance of tradition when you're adding theater in your home or in your classroom or in your home classroom. And then I'm going to share with you some of my favorite games. These are simple, easy games, just so you could walk away knowing, hey, I can do this too. It's not so scary. And if you stay all the way to the end of the presentation, I do have a little gift for anybody who is still here. So let's hop right into it. Well, I should say, sorry, before I get started, just a little about me and my teaching. I shared about who I am, but my teaching. So when I teach theater, I want you to know I'm not looking for perfection. There are companies out there that, want you to do it perfect 100% of the time. That is not me. I'm really all about the progress and the development and really meeting each kiddo where they are at. I love it when kids come and they're like, I'm not sure if I'm into theater. And then by the end, they love it and they want so much more. It is just a pleasure of mine. So a lot of what I teach is really kind of meeting kids where they're at, not forcing things, but really kind of creating a safe, comfortable space that everyone feels like they can explore, they can be creative, there's zero judgment, and they're having fun. And usually when they're having fun, they're learning so many skills without them even knowing it. Awesome. So really quickly, like I said, I want to share a little bit about the benefits of theater. These are probably things you guys all know, but just in case you do not, I want to share them now. Awesome. Perfect. Okay. So one of the biggest benefits in theater is speaking in front of a crowd. I looked at the stats and it's actually shocking to me, but 72% of adults still find it like the scariest thing to do is to speak in front of a crowd. How often do you probably have to speak in front of a crowd? And if it's not your thing, I get it. Now, for me, I love it. I actually, throughout high school, university, everything like that, I would beg for presentations. Like anytime there was a presentation, I was like, yes, please, I'll do it. Especially if I could add creativity to it. I was so excited. So the skills you learn in theater is obviously going to build your confidence so you feel comfortable speaking in front of a crowd. I also think of confidence and confidence of to work through the nerves. Nerves are going to happen. It is a part of life, but it's also really cool. I always tell my kiddos when you feel those butterflies, that means it's something that you are excited about. It means it's something important to you. So giving them those skills to confidently work through the nerves. I actually have a ebook all about this, how to conquer stage fright in young performers. And then also the confidence, I believe, in yourself, in your ability. When you work on a script or you play a lot of these theater games, you start really believing in the confidence of yourself. One of the biggest notes I give to my kiddos when they're about to go on stage and they are feeling nervous, I say, wait a second, take a breath. We all take a breath together, and then I remind them, you have got this. You've done the work. It's there. It's in your body. It's going to happen. It's there. So don't stress because you have that confidence in all that work you've already put into it. You are going to do a fantastic job. The next thing theater definitely teaches you is creativity. So, like I said, I'm really all about the exploration. I'm really all about kind of the progress, not perfection. So, creativity is just a chance for kiddos to really start playing around with things and not getting, not being told there's a right or wrong. Just try it, have fun. You'd be shocked at how many kids when I start working with them and simple things, I'll ask them to make a noise and they stop and they think and then they think again and they think again because they don't want to get things wrong. And it's like, no, 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 no. I want to like retrain that. I want you to just, whatever noise you're thinking about, just throw it out there, whatever it is, and have fun with it. So really kind of building that creativity with kiddos is so important. Creativity, it gives you the opportunity, like I said, to play, to explore, to develop characters, to have big emotions, to just kind of do things you might not get to do in your everyday life. You also will have the chance to really think out of the box. Sometimes, yes, you are given a script and a character, but sometimes you are given just like free reign to think out of the box. I had a class the other day where they were supposed to be I think riding an animal and someone's like, we're riding a unicorn, and by the end every single person was riding a unicorn, and it was just so incredible to one idea came and then someone else came up with something else and we built from there. And then on that same line, no idea is bad. So really encouraging your kiddos that like, let's explore, let's play, let's think about it. And sometimes these games are going to be super simple. Sometimes they'll be a little bit more complex, but really it's all about just throwing our ideas out there and supporting each other. The next thing theater is so great in teaching without you even knowing it is emotions in empathy. Now, I have some kiddos, my first one in particular. Man, he's got some big emotions. And the bigger he gets, he's now over 6 feet tall. They're still there. He has a hard time kind of controlling those big, big emotions. But what I love about theater is it gives you the opportunity to express those big emotions, right? How often in real life are you like, oh, please, no, don't cry. It's okay. It's okay. Well, now I'm trying to do the opposite with my kids. I'm trying to say, okay, I'm sorry you feel that way. Let's feel these emotions. Let's like just hang out there in them for a few minutes and then we'll work through some solutions. But in theater, you have this opportunity to just have those big emotions and some are not always happy, right? Like I used to joke I did not need therapy throughout university because I had theater. I would be crying and laughing and angry and sad all within 5 minutes. So theater gives you an opportunity to express those big emotions. It also gives you an opportunity to express a range of emotions. Like I said, there's things in everyday life, like fingers crossed, you don't want your kiddos to feel those big emotions. But in theater, you get to a chance to like play with them, explore with them, but never having to deal with them in real life. So the last thing is the kiddos learn empathy. You get to put yourself in someone else's shoes. We play an exercise where I was just with a class and we were talking about the musical Annie. We were doing a scene from the musical Annie, and I really just sort of broke down, okay, well, let's think about these kiddo situations. They were woken up in the middle of the night by Mrs. Hannigan. They're tired, they're hungry, they had to clean, their hands might be sore. So, like, we walked through every little detail of it. And it was just so cute to have all the different ideas. They said, "Oh, well, what did they get to eat their breakfast?" I'm like, "Oh no, not yet." And I'm like, "Think about, guys, how do you feel when you haven't eaten your breakfast?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, that I don't like that." And my tummy growls. And so just really kind of putting yourself in somebody else's shoes is a great trait for anyone to have, but especially kiddos. The next thing theater helps you out with is communication. So we talk a lot about kind of learning to give and take and kind of go back and forth, especially even in monologues. It's not just one person, even though it's one person standing there. You have to be thinking about who you are talking about, how they are reacting, what it changes every time, how you say something and what people give and how you give it back. It's just a fabulous lesson. You also, we talk a lot about listening and reacting. So theater is not just about learning those lines, but it's learning the cue line before you. It's learning what is happening with your acting partner on stage. It's really kind of reading their cues, what they're saying to you. And then this is also a great idea is subtext and situation. So not only are you listening for those cues, but maybe what they're saying isn't actually what they really mean. So we play a lot of games of like, okay, say this line, but now say it as if, the last time you saw this person, they stole your puppy. Going to be a very different line, even if the line is just, how are you? Now you kind of added the situation to it. Or we play a game where the only word the kids get are two words. They get to and me. And you start off where sometimes they just say energetic to me. So they run up to each other and yell, to me, to me, to me, to me. And then I change it. Then I give them a situation. Okay, well, now you're really tired. So they still get the word to me, really tired. Well, now you're really annoyed. So, how do you show annoyed when you only have these two words to me? Oh, and they find ways, trust me. So they might be to me. Oh, to me, right? So it's the same idea of like you only get these words, but sometimes there's more meaning behind the word. So that's a game kiddos love. Another thing kids love in theater, and it always happens, like I said, even working solo, you get collaboration. So we chat a lot about the importance of the team, and you're not solo. You have someone helping you out. Even like I said, even if you're working on a monologue, sometimes you're creating that back and forth, just so you always know there's someone there. There's a conversation to be had. Supporting each other. I love chatting with my performers and just really, saying you got help. You're not solo. You've got it. Okay. What happens if you forget a line? That's okay. Someone else will help you. Someone else will help you. You can support each other. We play a game where it's like a hot seat where someone just has to hop in the middle and start singing or talking, and someone else hops in and saves them. And it's constantly boom, 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 boom. And then, of course, taking turns is so important in theater and in life. Let's be honest. It's a skill that it can be difficult for some kiddos to learn, but it's so important. And it kind of goes back to that give and take. So, last one is problem solving. Theater, you are constantly thinking on your feet, especially if you're doing improv exercises. You're trying to figure out, okay, I've given you a scenario, I've given you this, let's just go and see what happens. Problem solving, the show must go on. I did a production this weekend of Bye Bye Birdie with my juniors, and man, we were tested with the show must go on. One of my little performers, just before she was going to hit the stage, turned and bammed her head into a pole. Her nose was bleeding. We had to calm her down, everyone, but she was a trooper and she went on stage and she performed anyways. We also play a lot of exercises of like, what happens if? One of my biggest rules, I mentioned, I don't want perfection, but one of my biggest rules is to stay in character. And this does for kiddos, it makes them realize like you've done all the hard work, you've done everything. And I always say, if you break character, you're going to let the audience know you're breaking character. If you stay in character, they never know you've made a mistake. So it's this like really kind of cool trick and tool. Kids really like it and they help each other stay in character. But we also play games of like, okay, what if, the tech was wrong here? What if the lights went crazy here? How do you kind of work through things when things don't always go as planned, which is such a great school for life and everything. Let's be honest. Awesome. So those are my quick little benefits of theater. Like I said, I could chat about it all day long, but now I want to share with you some of my theater guidelines. So the reality is about theater, you are asking kiddos to do these like potentially crazy things. I talked about having these big emotions, be really silly, have, get super creative. And then you're also turning and stopping and getting them to be really focused or get them to pay attention if you're trying to explain the next game. I find one of the biggest kind of hurdles some of my homeschool families have when they're teaching theater at home is that the parents don't always feel 100% comfortable in teaching the material. So I have two different options for families. I have videos that literally kiddos can pop on, follow along, play the games, or I have lesson plans that the parents can work with their kiddos, kind of go back and forth. But my main thing that when I suggest that it's time for theater, it's like you want to remind everybody of the theater guidelines. I do this in my in-person classes. I do it on my online classes. I do it when I pop in and help out my homeschool families. Theater is different than when you're teaching math or when you're teaching science or when you're teaching English. Like, it's like you have to be like, okay, now it's theater time and give it that allotted amount. And if your kiddos aren't super keen to start off with, I would say put on a timer. Let's just try it. But here are my theater guidelines and why I love these guidelines. It just always gives us a reminder of like, okay, yes, we're being silly. Yes, we're, being angry. Yes, we're doing all these big things. But there's always these guidelines. And let's be honest, there's kids. Guidelines now may not always be followed, but if we remind everybody of the guidelines, it's a great way to kind of transition to be like, okay, now it's theater time. So my first guideline is be respectful, and that's respectful for your director, respectful for your acting partner if you have kiddos working together. I always joke, especially when you are in a scene and you're like maybe trying a scene for the first time and you're really angry, you don't want to hit that acting partner. You don't want them to not know what's coming. So you always want to be respectful. Same as when you're exploring in some of these new activities, you want to make sure if it's something that you should be exploring by yourself, that you're not borrowing your acting partner to try and use them. So, because then it will take away from their experience. Next one is to try it. So this is such a great just reminder in life. One of the other things I find some of my homeschool families have a hard time is if the parents aren't buying into the theater, the kids are going to have a hard time too. So everyone kind of has to put on their faces and be like, all right, we're going to try it. Even if it's not, doesn't feel right, even if it feels like kind of weird, we are going to try it. I always tell my kiddos, listen, this might be crazy, might be silly, might be a little funny. I ask you to try it. And then later on, you can tell me like, Miss Corny, I didn't love this game, or I didn't like this exercise, or whatever it is. So you want to just try it. Try it, come back to it, reflect on it later. But in the moment, I want you to try. The next one is listen before you act. So many of these games and activities, you kind of have to figure out what's happening first before you just hop on in. Same thing as when I mentioned when you're working with a partner, you want to have a plan before you just hop into a scene and really get involved. In case it is something that you are, trying to be angry. You don't want to accidentally hurt anybody. So really listen before you act. Next one is leave it at the door. And this one I do find, depending on the age of your kiddos, it might be easier or harder to do. But once again, it's really there's that concept of like, okay, that might be happening now. We might have to do this next. But right now, in this moment in time, this is theater time. So that's what we are going to work at. So if you're having a bad day, try and leave it at the door. If you're upset about something else, try and leave it at the door. If you're really hungry because it's almost lunch, try and leave it at the door and just really focus on theater when it's theater. And then the last thing is having fun. Theater is supposed to be fun. I think it's fun, but we really want to take out that stress of the theater or the stress of getting everything absolutely perfect all of the time. You want them to feel comfortable and safe and ready to just explore and have a good time. And like I said, if you as a parent are, fully buying into it, I mean, like, okay, I'm going to try this with you, then it should be so much more fun for everybody. Oh, and now my phone's going. Awesome. Okay, well, what I want to do with you now is I'm going to lead you through what's kind of called my actor's warm up. And what I love about the actor's warm up is number one, it's going to connect your body. It's going to connect your breath. It's going to connect your kind of your focus. We do some like diction things, so you actually are warming up your muscles to prepare you for the exploration. But it also gives you that sense of like, okay, like I said, now it's theater time. So theater to me is all about tradition. And to always start up with the actor's warm up, it gives that kiddos that cue of like, okay, now we're doing theater. Now it's not what we were doing before. Let's hop into it. Same as I always finish with what's called my shakedown. So just those cues, those traditions, like kiddos just we know they love tradition, they love structure. So give them that like, okay, this is what's happening now. And then, like I said, it's also a great way to really start focusing and be like, yeah, it is theater. I'm going to just, get connected, enjoy myself, and have fun. So follow along if you like. If not, you can, pass on this and go look at it later. This is also a great resource that I'm sharing with you of how to do your own warm up. So maybe later on you want to look back at this and kind of follow through. But that's exactly what we're going to do now. So all we're going to do is we're going to take a huge breath in. And you're going to go out on a shh, 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 shh. Breath on in. This time, I want you to do a for as long as you can hold it. Huge breath in. Out on a ho, 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 ho. Big breath in. Out on a he, 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 he. Breath in. Out on a whoo. Big breath in and do a yawn. Stretch. And a yawn is such a huge, amazing tool for performers. When you yawn, you're actually opening up the roof of your mouth, your soft palate. So when you open up that soft palate, you are just allowing the sounds to come out easily. Now, you as a parent could take the time now and have each kid decide on a sound and a movement. And my favorite thing about this is you don't want to be like, you don't want them to stress about it. I always say like, oh, just make a sound and a movement. And then we all copy along that sound and movement. And if the kiddo goes, "Ooh," or whatever, I don't know, then I copy, I don't know, and just go along with it. So this is a great way to get your kiddos involved in the warm up of the acting warm up without giving them too much pressure, without getting them too much stress. So you could take lots of turns doing sounds, movements, just really quickly. And then I go shake it all out. And now we're going to give our face a little bit of a warm up. Give your face a little massage. Yeah. Good. So what I call my lion and my lemon. So lion is eyes big, mouth big, as you can go. And then lemon is like you've just tasted the most sour lemon you've ever tasted. Then you go lion, lemon, lion, and lemon. Perfect. Now I want you to pretend you're chewing some bubble gum. Well, really chew that bubble gum. Go out. And pop it. Perfect. Next one, we're going to wake up. This is called our nasal in here. So we're going to wake this up. Now I'm going to go repeat after me. I'm going to go, nya, nya, nya. Nya, nya, nya. Nya, 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 nya. Nya, nya, nya. Now I want to do big ah for as long as you can hold it. Does not need to sound pretty. Ah. Great. Now what I like you to do is I want you to stick out your tongue. This one's gonna feel a bit weird. I'm gonna go 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1. That is also a really good exercise for any performer who's having a hard time speaking a line or even a word. Try doing it with the tongue out and then put your tongue back in, and it's like a million times easier. So that's a little trick for you. Awesome. Continuing our warm up. So we've given our face a massage. We've woken everything up. I think it's time for us to do some tongue twisters. So the tongue twister goes like this, goes, my mother made me mash my M&Ms. Let's do it together. My mother made me mash my M&Ms. Now you're going to listen to the speed and like the intonation I'm giving to it. My mother made me mash my M&Ms. 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 Now try it really low. My mother made me mash my M&Ms. Awesome. We're going to do another one. This one goes, the tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips. The tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips. The tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips. The tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips. Next one goes like this, goes, she sells seashells by the seashore. She sells seashells by the seashore. She sells seashells by the seashore. Last one goes, unique New York. Unique New York. Unique New York, unique New York. Perfect. One more thing. I want to get us really connected with our diaphragms. Now, the easiest way to do this is to kind of pant like a doggy. And you should, right around here, feel your body going like this. And you can feel that power. That is where you are getting your voice from when you're on stage. I don't want people getting up like here because it's going to get really strained. I want really strong. So this is your diaphragm giving you all the power on stage to just really project. So repeat after me. We're going to go hip, hip, pow, hip, 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 hooray. Hey, hi, how are you? Awesome. And depending on your kiddos, depending on how you're feeling, your warm-up could go longer. Your warm-up could be really quick. Sometimes I notice that kiddos are all super energetic, so we might do a few games where we're kind of shaking our bodies, but releasing some of that tension. Sometimes when they're super energetic, I might play a game that's like, okay, now we've warmed up. Let's play a focus game to just kind of bring in some of that energy. So there's tons of different tips and tricks, but your warm-up, you want to make sure you always have a little bit of time in the warm-up in your programming to be like, okay, now it's theater. These are the things I do when I start theater. Once you've gotten your warm-up ready to go, I start playing some games. So my favorite thing about theater also is that in these games, a lot of time kiddos don't even know what they're learning because they're just so fun. They're just like, I'm playing a game. It's awesome. To me, there's like 3 different sort of theater games. So the first ones are kind of warm-up games. A lot of times those warm-up games could be in a circle, could just be very simple things. They're like no pressure. Everyone can kind of participate without feeling put on the spot. The second kind of game is more of an explore game. So this could be a game that you're playing by yourself. Maybe eventually you're going to use some of those things you've explored and add it to a character or in a show. But exploring games are a little bit more sort of just creative and could be exploring your voice, could be exploring your movement, could be exploring emotions or characters, just really exploring all the different things. And then the last kind of game I think about is an audience audience game. So to me, an audience game is one where there's an audience sitting and watching and somebody up on your stage, and you can create whatever you want as your stage. But a lot of times improv games could be audience games, or if you go work on a scene and come back and have an audience. I think having audience games are really great way to slowly introduce like presenting without it feeling pressured again. It's also a great way to teach kiddos what an appropriate audience member looks like, right? So sitting and paying attention to my person who's performing, not saying things out, not trying to take over, but really just giving that respect back and forth. So those are my 3 games. The warm-ups, the explore, and the audience games are kind of how I break everything up. So the first one I want to show you today is just a super simple warm-up game. This one is one of my favorites because it is so easy. No one feels like they're put on the spot. Everything just like sort of happens. And depending on your kiddos, they could play it for a long time. It could be a short time. It could be whatever you want. So the first one is if you do have multiple kids in a group, I make a big circle. And one person, it goes up to another person and they just give a sound and an action. Usually I tell them not to use words because sometimes we don't want to say words that we don't want to use. Just a sound and an action. So it might be, "Woo." And that person I gave that sound and an action to, they have to repeat it. So they go, "Woo." And then they go into the circle and they go up to somebody else and start a brand new sound and a brand new action. So simple, but really good to just, like I said, ease kiddos into this. If you have only one kiddo at home, you could just keep on going back and forth, creating sound and actions. What you may find, because I find this a lot, like I said before, kiddos get stuck in their head and they're like, oh, okay, who do I go to? What sound do I do? What action do I do? And you're really trying to just like let that go. So I always say, like, come on, hurry up. Oh, no, let's go. Think quick. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. Because you don't want them making judgments on themselves before they've even started. You want them to feel like, okay, sound and action, wah, copy it. And the fact that you give it and you get it back, I think is also really important because if someone does something like really, well, you know what? You're going to get back at you. So it's that give and take. It's the give and back. It's, thinking quick on your feet, but not thinking too hard. So I always just tell kids, I'm like, whatever you're feeling, go, and pick up the pace a little bit. So it's fun and engaging. But that one's my first one. Sound and movement, super easy, great warm-up game. Now the next one, this one is probably more of an explore game-ish, but we're still working together. Could be explore, could be warm up. See, this is what happens. All my games kind of merge together. But the concept of this one is that you're always saying yes. No idea is bad. Everyone supports everyone. I always say, I'm like, imagine how amazing a board meeting would be if everybody's idea was like, that's the greatest idea ever, rather than like, no, that's not going to work. But so in this game, one person, and I don't point out who, they get to decide. It's that same concept of like, okay, it's my turn. I'm going to go. Someone says, hey, everybody, let's, and they say something they're going to pretend to do. So let's, pretend we're riding a bike. Then everyone has to answer, yes, let's pretend we're riding a bike. And they all start doing the action. And they do it for a few seconds. Then somebody else is going to say, hey, everybody, let's pretend we're baking a cake. And we go, let's pretend we're baking a cake. Hey, everybody, let's pretend we're chickens. Yes, let's pretend we're chickens. As you can see, this game could go on for quite a while. You don't necessarily have to say, let's pretend. Like you could just be like, let's go fishing. And everyone can be like, yes, let's go fishing. But you really want to, number one, make sure everyone's getting a turn, throwing in some ideas, whatever they may be. You also want to make sure they're doing that repeat after, like, yes, let's, because it's just that call and answer. It's that idea that you're always being supported. It's that idea that no ideas are bad and everybody's kind of working off of everybody. So go back and forth. It's a really fun game. Once again, sort of a warm up, sort of an explore game, a little bit of like just getting everyone comfortable with ideas and activities and having fun. Now, the last game I want to show you, this is definitely more of an explore game. So I do have kiddos normally walking around the room by themselves doing this one. And I talk about what actor neutral is. So neutral is just like arms to your side, your feet are planted, your face isn't bored, but there's not a lot going on. So sometimes even if they're, the kiddos are very energetic, I might be like, okay, let's practice. Go wild, wild, wild. Neutral. Neutral. They love that. So you can play to practice round of what neutral is, but the concept is they always go back to this state of neutral, of like what's next. So this game is great for characters. It's great for creativity. It's also great for listening though, because they need to listen when the says back to neutral, and then they can like create what's next. So all you're doing in this one, and I go through different scenarios, sometimes I go through different characters, but one of my favorite ones is, okay, pretend you are in a hurry. So then everyone starts walking around, pretending they're in a hurry. I'm like, oh, and now you also have to go to the bathroom. So now the kids are like, oh, pretending this character, they're moving around the space. Then I go back to neutral, back to neutral. Okay, now pretend you are a ballerina. Mhm. And back to neutral, back to neutral. Now pretend you're a spy. So you could see this game could go on forever. This is actually a really good one to like just keep on playing around, having fun. This is also a great game if you are already working on a book or maybe working on some other homework for something else, and you could go through like certain characters in the book and they get to like show them and then back to neutral, or certain places in the book they could be exploring and then back to neutral. Or if you're doing different, studying different animals, they could be different animals and then back to neutral. So you could really actually link this game to something else you're already working on. You could also, especially if your kiddos are like, I don't love theater, you could link it to some of their favorite characters. So let me see a Pokemon, and they can show me which Pokemon, because I know they all do very different things, but they could show you all different Pokemon and back to neutral, back to neutral. Okay, now show me a witch. Now show me a monster. Now show me, but it's that concept of like they create these things and then they go right back to neutral. Like I said, I love this game because it could go on forever. They don't feel like they're put on the spot, so they kind of have this like free reign to explore, but they just get creative. They just have so much fun. You could ask your kiddos for ideas too, of like, okay, what do you have an idea of what you want us to be? This is key too. If you are teaching this, and sometimes it's good to watch and hang out, but sometimes it's great when they give an idea, you start acting it as well. Like when parents hop into the theater, the kids are going to be like, oh my gosh, okay, if mom's doing it or dad's doing it, like they are going to buy in. So when they give you an idea, go ahead and do it, whatever it is. I want to see that Pokemon. You might not even know what that Pokemon does, but you're like, oh, okay, this is my Pokemon, whatever it may be. Kids love that. So those are just 3 games, simple games you can add. It could be tons of fun. I think you would love it. And then, like I said before, I always end every theater class with that shakedown. So I've started with my warm up, I've set my expectations for the day, I've told them what the plan is, but I always end with a shakedown, almost like a thank you, like a yes, you did a great job, and a release. So in this, all you start with your right hand and you're going to shake it. Then you go left hand, you go right foot, left foot, but you start off slow and you start off quiet and you count down from 5. Then you go around and you count down from 4. Then you go around and count down from 3. But as you keep going, you get faster and louder. So this is a great one for listening. It's a great one for rhythm. It's a great one for, connecting your body. But it's also just that like, release, thank you for enjoying this theater class. So we're going to do it. We're going to go. 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. And sometimes I do a big whoa for the day. So, whoa, theater. Awesome. So just before I go, I'm just going to share a tiny bit of some of the things I have to offer that could potentially make your life teaching theater so much easier. So right now, I do currently have an online drama club. How it works is 1 week you receive a video and a lesson plan. Like I said, you can either help your kiddo yourself, teach it with them, or just put on the video and they can kind of go through it with me. And then the next week we meet on Zoom together and we create and explore and have so much fun together. I have performers from all over the world join us. There's a junior program and a senior program, so you get kind of similar ages, but kiddos just love playing these games. We have such a blast. It's only 30 minutes when we meet online. Keep it simple, short, and fun. I also have a few self-paced programs. So depending on your kiddo's interest, there's one that's all about musical theater. You learn a song, a dance, and a scene from the musical Annie. And you also get to those free drama clubs. You get drama club for free added into that. There's another program for my teens. So it's a teen monologue boot camp, and they get to choose out of 2 different monologues and really what it looks like to break down a monologue. Plus, they get a lot of these explore games and warm-up games, and once again can work by themselves completely, and then by the end are going to be performing a monologue. Both of those self-paced programs, you get one-on-one calls with me, your director, you get notes, you get support, you get certificates, you get the drama club. It's just so much fun. And then our last program, we haven't started quite yet, is the Homeschool Players. So it's kind of a theater for my younger performers, not the musical theater route. But I also have tons of great resources on my website as well. So if you're just looking for scripts or games or ideas, there might be something there you would enjoy. So thank you so much for taking the time to check this out. And I would love to help you add some theater to your kiddos' homeschooling education.